Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to June on the Range. This is a BookTube event created by Michael K. Vaughan designed to celebrate Westerns in all of their variety. And I prepared for this event all year long by buying cheap 35-cent paperbacks of Western novels whenever I found them. So I had a little pile of them here at Hyde Cottage that I was intentionally not reading them. I was intentionally leaving them aside. Same thing with all of the Western ebooks that I have accumulated. I've been leaving them aside as well. When it comes time to spin the wheel, or I feel like a palate cleanser of a read or whatnot, and I go to one of my electronic book libraries, I've been intentionally avoiding Westerns of any kind during the rest of the year, so that I would have plenty of stuff to read during June on the Range. I have way too much stuff. I didn't need to hold off that much, but I've been exploring all of these things. These authors that I've never met before or barely know at all, these paperback pulpy things from 60 or 70 years ago, with authors whose names are now forgotten. They made a good living when they were doing this. They wrote hundreds of books under many pseudonyms. Learning about them, learning their styles, getting a feel for what the busy commuters were plucking off the newsstand racks when they were on their way to work back then has been fascinating. And I guess maybe unconsciously that has shaped my June on the Range reading. So that at least for 2023, it's included nothing in the way of classics. Unless you mean classics of that particular genre. Like, for instance, a lot of you would say that Elmer Kelton is a classic Western author. My limited exposure to him, I would agree with that. And there are also classic Westerns. There's Lonesome Dove, of course. There's Riders of the Purple Sage. There's Laughing Boy or whatnot. And I haven't been reading those. Instead, I've been reading these pulp authors who are long gone, and their books are never going to get reprinted. No one's ever going to think about them at all. Library of America or Everyman's Library is not going to care what Steve Frazee ever did 70 years ago. And last night's Western, I pick a Western every night to read, and last night's Western, by random chance, I started it and fell into it again, as I do, and it's great. It's not one of those things at all. It's not the informal pattern that is formed with June on the Range. It's Horsemen Pass By Larry McMurtry. This is his 1961 debut novel, and he was just a kid. He was just in his 20s. And it's fantastic. It's one of the best American debuts of any author in any period, in any century, and doesn't read. I know it's a trite thing to say about a debut, but it doesn't read like it was written by a 25-year-old at all. It doesn't read like a debut. It's a beautiful, beautiful story. Very simple story, as most of Larry McMurtry's books are. They are very simple. When you boil down the plot, you can boil it down to a sentence. I can't help but think that that's intentional. The one big exception of his that is also a great book to that would be Moving On. But most of his books are very simple. This one, you could boil it down to simply a premise, not even a plot. This takes place in the relatively modern West. There are cars, there are trains, there are airplanes at night flying overhead. You can see their lights. So this is not the Old West, but it is definitely the West. It is definitely the same. It counts. I believe it counts for June on the Range. And this is a multi-generational story. This is the story of an old rancher named Homer who's in his mid-80s. So he knows that he can't keep doing this. Is a hard life. Up before dawn, working all day long. You barely get any rest, a little bit of food, and then back at it again. There aren't any days off. There's no union. So this old man knows that he doesn't have much longer to do this. He can't. He's going to break down. His health will fail him if he doesn't have an accident. And he has a grandson, Lonnie, who's the main character of this book, and who is a marvelous channel for all of the skill that Larry McMurtry has in writing yearning, in writing incompleteness. This author, whether it's in Horsemen Pass By or All My Friends Are Going to Be Strangers or whatever, he has such a talent for writing insecure young people. Partially, I imagine, because he was drawing on his own personal experiences and memory. I mean, he wasn't very old when he was writing this. But it stays true even later in his career. It's in Lonesome Dove, Newt is an amazingly compelling character, and that kind of a character shows up in a lot of his books. Whether it's the star, the nominal star, the focus of the narrative, like in Anything for Billy, Or in this book, where we get, a teenage Lonnie who doesn't know what he wants, has all sorts of dreams about his honors and his vengeances and his happinesses. He dreams about a bigger world than the ranch that he works on every day, all day, with his grandfather, who he loves. And then there's a third character, the spoiler character, the Jake Spoon character, who is Hud. He is Lonnie's step-uncle, a stepson of the grandfather. And he is charismatic in a dark and grubby way, but totally reprehensible. He's lazy, except when it suits him not to be. He can do a huge amount of work when he's not lazy. He's grotesquely racist and misogynistic and opportunistic and whining and bullying. He's just a three-dimensional but horrible character. And he's at the heart of this story. The grandfather can't really do without him. And Lonnie, although we get the sense that Lonnie knows who Hud is, there's a pull there for a father figure that he can't resist. He can't entirely resist it. There's also the old man's wife and also the housekeeper for the ranch, and they are both of them are perfect examples of the thing that separates Larry McMurtry from Dude Bro Lit. This book on the surface, as a thumbnail elevator pitch, sounds exactly like Dude Bro Lit. But the thing that separates Larry McMurtry is that he can write women. That women are human beings. They're three-dimensional beings for him, and I fell into this book. I wasn't intending to. At all. For some reason, was thinking this is not really what I want to do for June on the Range. I want to read all of those cheesy old westerns. I want to get to know all the authors like Elmer Kelton who aren't writing cheesy old westerns or writing good old westerns, and everything in between. I want to know all of that. And this is going to be reprinted as long as there are printing houses in America. This is already in, what was it, a Norton anthology? A Norton omnibus of the Thalia novels. It's been filmed, of course. There was a Paul Newman movie, but this is well known and honored. No one considers this in the same breath as they consider, the Pistol Man or whatever. It definitely is a Western, but I fell into it all the same. So I almost want to apologize because my update for June on the Range today it's not a genre book. It's fantastic. Just fantastic. So that's all I have to report for today. I fell into this. It's not a long book. I read it again in one breathless shot, marveling again at this author's ability. This is such a great author. And he isn't always great. There are a lot of his books that feel off to me, that feel unregistered. This isn't one of them. This is one of the most assured and amazing debut novels that I've ever read. So I figure that it counts for June on the Range. I will go back to trailblazing, sidewinding, rootin' tootin' normal genre westerns tonight. I'll pick something from my endless stores tonight, and we'll be back on the trail tomorrow. But that's what I read this time. So I'll wrap this up for now, and I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.